As people talk about incel, it made me wonder, you might call this a new phenomenon, but is it really new, and is it any really different than the type of misogyny that we have seen for decades?
It's not. And I think that's a really important thing that we need to make. Even when using the word incel all the time, I want us to actually use the word misogynistic hate. And this is just a continuum of that hate, be it online or in person.
Why do you want to use that word specifically?
Because I don't think it's easy to kind of make it dismissive almost when you use words like incel. Like, yes, it is a specific group, but is a part of a larger movement of misogynistic hate, which is about policing, punishing, and persecuting women. And the idea that people, specifically men, are entitled to women's bodies, our hearts and minds, and have the right to control us. And so we need to have a real conversation about that. And to use the right word there is important because we're naming the problem.
What would you say to that, Humberto?
I would absolutely agree, and I would say that this is part of a set of beliefs that many men hold. It's part of what we understand as toxic forms of masculinity, right? So as Farrah mentioned, the automatic belief that men have access to women's bodies, should have access to sex and relationships and so forth, but other forms of misogyny, such as the use of controlling and dominance, the use of violence and coercive tactics to dominate women. And this is an extreme example of that, but we see examples in our everyday life, and they take form of sexual harassment, they take form of sexual assault in our homes, in our communities, in our workplaces. So it's part of a much bigger problem that we have.
Let's call that, though, because I do want to get deeper into that, because as you say, this is not just about one incident, and again, no direct correlation, but not just about one incident, but it's talking about behavior that manifests in many different ways. But when you talk about incel, it's interesting to listen, horrifying to go through their words, because on the one hand, they are so angry that the women are not paying them attention, but then they also hurl so much hatred towards women. What does that say about the attitudes being expressed here? What does that say about the perverseness of what we're seeing here?
Well, to me, it's like, I'll give you an example. If I walk down the street and a guy catcalls me, and I ignore him, but at first when he's catcalling me, he's like, "You're so beautiful, you're so hot, please talk to me." And then as soon as I say no or anything, then I'm called an expletive, I'm put down, I'm told that I'm a prude or I'm frigid, all those things. So it's
those are the nicer words.
And those are the nicer words, right, that were on television. But I think that we have a thing where it's this idea, again, about entitlement, this idea that we owe them something and that women are there for men's entertainment. Be it on street harassment, which we know that 70% of Canadian women experience street harassment by the age of 15, 10% by the age of 10. So we know that women are punished, persecuted, and policed, both online and in public spaces. And so we need to have that conversation. That's why, no matter what the motive was in this case, I'm actually happy that we're having a conversation with misogyny. Like, even using that word is powerful.
Humberto, the White Ribbon Campaign, of course, in part comes out of what we saw at École Polytechnique, the horrific murders of those women. I do wonder, though, because that was before the internet. And when you talk about groups like Incel and other misogynist groups online, they seem to be alone, but they are radicalizing each other in their isolation. Does the internet make it that much harder to call out misogyny and to address it?
It does when these groups go underground, but we all have an opportunity and a responsibility to call out these behaviors, and when we see it, whether online or in person or in the workplace, so we have to speak out against this.
And Farrah, we're going to take a quick break here, but I do want to get about the bigger attitudes here, or other ways it manifests, because it's easy to say a group online.
Yes.
But at the same time, men who express their sympathy towards or their horror at misogyny will at the same time excuse things as, for example, locker room humor.
Right. And I think that's the piece around this, is that it is connected. And we cannot just say, well, that's just a group of people over there. It happens every day. Everyday misogyny is how women's lives are shaped.